The 2022 Great Race is coming to Fargo. It's a 9-day, 2,300-mile adventure that will bring the world's finest antique autos through a number of states. With a huge prize at the end, we have Jay Rannon. He joins me just to talk a little bit more about it. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Well, how are you doing? I like your rod that you have there behind you.
Yeah, it's a good backdrop. It's keeps me awake on a Monday morning.
Yes, absolutely. So for people out there that have never heard of, what actually is the Great Race?
The Great Race is the country's premier cross-country vintage car rally. It has, I think this year, is going to be a record number of entries. About 140 cars are going to start in Providence, Rhode Island, and make their way about 2,500 miles to end in Fargo, North Dakota, home of the Bison. My alma mater. So it's really exciting because it's about 500,000 people come out to see the race every year, and we drive through small towns in Middle America, and it's really an exciting race. And you see cars that are the one behind me here is a 1918 American LaFrance. That's the car that I drive in the race every year. It's a chain drive car, and it's got wooden wheels and brakes in the rear. And there's cars like that in the race, and everything up through muscle cars up to 1974. And it's a precision driving race. It's not really you don't get in the car and just drive as fast as you can, because if that were the case, I would lose.
When it comes to pit stops, are you able to stop by those mom and pop shops, or is it just going on straight through?
Well, they every morning we get a set of directions, and so we don't know where we're going to go until we get the set of directions. And I have a navigator, Chris Brungart, who lives in West Fargo, and he tells me where to drive and where to turn and how fast to go. So a direction will be something like this: take a left out of the parking lot, go 30 miles an hour to the second stoplight, take a right, go 45 miles an hour for 50 seconds, take the third paved road on the left, go 50 miles an hour for 1 minute and 40 seconds. And you do that all day long, and he's busy shouting at me. Actually, we have headsets because this thing is really a loud car. But he gives me directions, and we get from point A to point B. And there are time checks on the way. And so the car that is the closest to the precise time that you're supposed to be gets the best score of the day. And ultimately, at the end of the race, the car that drives the closest to the exact speed that you're supposed to keep will win the race. And Chris and I are never really in the running, because the car that we drive is the most primitive of the 140 entrants, the most primitive car in the race. So we just try to make it. We just try to get from point A to point B safely and have fun with it.
So is it one driver for the full race? Are you guys allowed to switch the navigator to the co-pilot, or do you just stick on one?
We just stick on one. This thing is really complicated. Do you want to see what the car looks like?
Yeah, I would love to. And then tell me a little bit, did you make any modifications to it?
No, that's the problem with it.
Well, that's a good thing. I just want to follow by the rules. So this is all pure stock, I'm assuming. Not any modifications are allowed?
Well, it's the body. The body is different than it came in, but this is the same engine and drivetrain. That's a 4-cylinder T-head motor, which probably doesn't make much sense to people, but it's like an old John Deere tractor motor from the 1920s, basically. Those are straight pipes that come out of it. Very loud, very smoky. Flames come out of it, stinky. Chris gets that because he sits on that side, so this blows right into his face, which is kind of entertaining for me. It's a chain drive, so if you look at the back, that's an enormous chain. And it's on both wheels on both sides, and you don't want to stick your hand in there because that would be unpleasant. But it's like having a big combine chain back there. Frankly, these are wooden wheels, and so if you look here, that's hickory. There are no brakes in the front, so you only have brakes in the rear. And the fun thing about this is that the oil from the chain gets onto the brakes, and so you you just have to adjust for that, because the brakes stop working the way they're supposed to about halfway through the race.
Well, Jay,
Very
I could
limited
ask you
rules.
probably a lot more questions, especially with the train of the race, but we've got to go. But thank you so
Sure.
much. Check in with us all throughout the race, and I hope to see you at that finish line right here in downtown Fargo. Coming up here on the Today Show, we're going to have your daily dose of motivation.